Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Sporty17. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about a new podcast that I just started. It's called Sporty Talk with Sporty17. And essentially, what it is I kind of get intrigued by other people's fan base with other NBA teams. And so I just bring people on who aren't fans of the Utah Jazz, and I just talk to them about their sports teams and why they like their sports team and what's cool about their sports team and how it can relate to the Jazz. And so I hope you all just enjoy the very first episode. It's with my friend Kreigh. He's really cool, and so here you go. What's up, everyone? This is Sporty Spence 17 here with Sporty Kreigh.
Sporty
Uh,
Kreigh.
I don't know what your number is, but
34, my
yeah,
friend. 34.
34, Sporty Kreigh 34.
That's it.
So this is the beginning of a new era for Sporty Spence 17 YouTube channel. I've started a podcast called Sporty Talk with Sporty Spence, and it will be available on all platforms. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet. But pretty much what I want to do with this podcast is I want to bring in people who are not of the Utah Jazz faith and talk to them about their fan base and their love. My friend over here, he is a card expert on sports cards. His name, he's really rad. He is a Boston Celtics fan, and pretty much introduce yourself, Mister Sporty Kreigh 34.
I am the Boston Celtics fan, number one, the top guy in the fanatics for the Boston Celtics. Yeah, my name's Kreigh Carter, and I've been a Celtic fan since probably I was just a young teenager when I actually started like really watching basketball. And I grew up, I'm a little older than you.
Yeah,
If
of
you
course. You
know,
got kids, man.
I do. You might hear them here in a minute. But definitely grew up. So I grew up more in the 90s, late 90s, was definitely watching a lot. So like Paul Pierce, Antoine Walker were my two guys growing up that got me into the Celtics. And
Mm-hmm.
then from then on, it's just been, I don't know. I've only seen one championship of them, but I do have to say it's probably one more championship than you Jazz fans have probably ever
Hey,
seen.
we're trying to keep
Hey,
this. We're trying to keep this civil on this podcast, but yeah,
it's
you're
gonna be
right. You're
so. It's
right.
gonna be so. I'm just saying I've only seen one. Unfortunately, they have tons.
I've
They
s-
have
I've
more
s-
than
I've
most
seen one
teams.
Celtics championship too.
I
Probably the
know.
same one as you, 2008, right?
That's it. That's it. The only one. That was our big three with Ray Allen, KG, Paul Pierce.
Yeah, I gotta say, I remember when I was actually a bigger Ray Allen fan when I was a
Mm,
kid. I remember watching the TNT game where he broke the 3-point record. I had a big green bucket and a little like toy basketball, and I was pretending to be Ray Allen and shooting it
yes.
in there. That's just how good he was.
Yes. Nice. I like
But
that.
that's cool. So yeah, you might see more championships to come. I haven't seen. I mean, I had the only championship sports team I've had has been the Seahawks, and
Yeah.
then the next year I think it kind of evened it out because they flopped it the next year. So
And
um,
we're both Seahawks fans, so we do
yeah,
share
we
that in
are.
common.
We do share. That was a rough. I didn't go to school the next day, but I yeah, the Jazz. I've been a Jazz fan my whole life. My dad actually, he was a big Jazz fan. He grew up in Honeyville, Utah, in the middle of nowhere. Him and his brothers all were big Jazz fans, and he had to suffer through watching Michael
Mm,
Jordan just
mm,
dominate everyone. I still think we could have had 2 championships if Michael Jordan wasn't around.
that's probably
But
true.
um yeah, so I was born actually. I've never even breathed air during the same time as the Utah Jazz in the finals because they were in 98 and I was born in 99. So it's been a long time
Do you
coming.
take some of that upon yourself? That maybe
A-
you're the reason.
I might be the curse. I never thought of that. I might be the curse of the Jazz.
Oh, that's
No,
rough.
I just think Utah sports teams just all have a curse because they all play the same. They all are really good and then they choke when it matters most. Literally every single Utah team. But so yeah, my dad pretty much was a huge Jazz fan. I like father, like son, started liking the Jazz too. My first game, it was Energy Solutions Arena at the time, was against Chris Paul and New Orleans Hornets in 2010, maybe.
Mm.
So ever since then, it's just I distinctly remember watching the Utah Jazz and the Golden State Warriors in 2007 when it was just after the Dallas Mavericks were the number 1 seed. They had some crazy year with Dirk, and then the eighth seed Warriors won.
Did they have Steph back then or no?
No, that was 2007.
Like Baron Davis days?
I think so. I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember who was pre-Steph.
Was it Richardson?
Yeah.
Something Richardson.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember the Jazz playing them, and then Derek Fisher was actually playing for the Jazz at that time, and Darren Williams, I believe. Yes. But so yeah, that's kind of my upbringing. It's just pretty much like father, like son, and I've enjoyed it. I've had a lot of ups and downs, and but yeah, I guess the Celtics, man. How do you big news today from the Celtics? Jaylen Brown signs $304 million 5-year deal, right?
Get in the bag, that guy. Get in the bag. Hopefully he can spend some money getting some handles now, like a handles coach of some sort. I'll bet he could buy one now. Okay.
What are your thoughts on this? Do you like it? Do you think it's too much, or you don't know it quite yet?
It's hard to say, man, because with the new like CBA stuff, with the player salaries as they're going, like this is kind of the cost of it's a superstar cost. And then that's the question: is Jaylen Brown a superstar? And I don't know. He's kind of fringe. You know, I don't think he could lead a team to a championship, but I do think he could be the number 2 for a team that wins a championship. It's a lot of money. But I think it's only the most expensive contract right now until the next guy gets the contract.
Definitely. I remember back in this has to do with your Boston Celtics back in 2017 when they signed Gordon Hayward to, I believe, a 4-year, like $130 million contract. And I was thinking that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That was $130 million, but now it's what,
$304
million is the most. It's not as expensive as that soccer player that just signed a 1-year $700 million deal in Saudi Arabia, though. At least I don't know if
that's true.
Heard of that, but that's insane.
Yeah, that's true. And that's what's funny too. This is what's kind of good. This is a good starter one because the Celtics and the Jazz kind of are intertwined a little bit. They even though they're in different conferences, they never meet each other in the playoffs. I don't know that that's ever. I mean, it would have to be in the championship, and that's never happened, as far as I know.
Yep.
And so you wouldn't think they would be, but we have these little connections. One is the one you're talking about, Gordon Hayward, that year that he left to go play with Brad Stevens in the Celtics. That was huge. I remember being out because it was like 4th of July or something. And
it was. I was in Yellowstone then, I believe, driving past the Tetons, and I got the notification.
Yep.
But little fact about me is I never was a big fan of Hayward, so I wasn't.
You weren't too broken up.
Not
really. There was thoughts that he would stay. There was a couple teams he was choosing between, maybe leaving, and then all of a sudden, I was pretty excited about it. And obviously, that did not go very well at all.
Yeah. So funny story about the injury was I was actually on a mission for my church in Kansas in the middle of nowhere, and my dad sent me an email saying Gordon Hayward just snapped his ankle in half, and I was like, well, poor guy. Like, but that must have hurt being a Celtics fan, you know.
Oh,
he was just coming off an all-star game year, and then I don't even remember who the Celtics had at that time, but they were pretty set to kind of compete, weren't they, for the championship?
That was kind of in did he come over before Kyrie 1 year, or did him?
I don't know.
I think he came over 1 year before Kyrie, and then we had a few years where it was kind of like, this is our year, and then something would happen. Like we'd get Kyrie Irving, we're like, this is our year, and then it turns out like Kyrie's just a crazy person. And it was like, we got Gordon Hayward. This is our year. And then like game 1, it was literally game 1. And he just snaps and he's done. And it's been so I feel like a different frustration probably than Jazz fans, because the Celtics, even up till recently, have flirted with the championship. They've gotten close. But I almost wonder if that's worse. I don't know. because I it's kind of like you get your hopes up, and I can't tell you how much stress this last like playoffs put me through. I lost hair. It's just crazy. Like it was bad.
Oh yeah, I watched it. My father-in-law, he's a big Celtics fan because he grew up in Mexico, and all they could watch when he was growing up was the Lakers and the Celtics, and no one wants to be a Lakers fan, so you choose the Celtics, you know. So I had to sit through a lot of Sunday night phone calls with him, just because he calls me and my wife's family and a lot every Sunday night, and he was just vent about it, and I was like, well, I mean, that's got to be frustrating. Like it was kind of nice not having the pressure of being in the playoffs this year, like just seeing other people's teams fail on them when
Yeah,
I just sit back and
you just
watch.
get to sit back and enjoy it. That's another thing we have in common. We both hate Lakers
That's
quite a
true.
bit.
Yes,
Jazz and Celtic fans very much hate Lakers, so that's
they
good.
do. Yes. And then I guess another connection is Will Hardy for the Utah Jazz. He
Mhm.
was an assistant coach
Yep.
for the Celtics. And do you think that because I guess Ime Udoka? Is that one coach?
Ime Udoka. Yep.
He got fired. Would you have rather taken Will Hardy or John Mazzulla?
Uh,
What do you think?
well, that's interesting because so Joe Mazzulla was the coach last year, and he was kind of an interim coach that was thrown in
Mhm.
right before the season because Udoka had that those allegations against him, and the team just dropped him. And Ime
Mhm.
was a really good coach. The year before, I believe that he was one of the better ones. I think he might have been in the running for coach of the year even the year before. But then
Mhm.
that stuff came up, they drop him. So we throw in Joe Mazzulla last minute, and he ends up doing good enough to get the job. But then come playoff time, I just saw him being out coached left and right. I mean,
Mhm.
him versus any of those top Eastern guys that he was playing against. I felt like he's just, I don't know. He's a new age sort of guy. He doesn't call timeouts. Like he likes to let players just play it through, which there's some merit to that. But there was times where I was just like, man, like you got to drop a play, buddy. You got to do
Mhm.
something, you know?
Yeah, I wonder because I mean, him and Will Hardy are both like 35 years old. I wonder if
They're
he'll.
young.
I mean, he still, I guess, has time to adjust. But I mean, if you're not really adjusting while you're playing a game, I don't like that in a coach. I saw that a lot in Quinn Snyder. He was so
Yeah.
no, no, the numbers say this. I'm like, I don't care about the numbers. If you're losing by 20 points, whatever you're doing right now isn't working. Adjust. Like you're getting
How,
out coached. That's all it is too.
yeah.
And like it's just frustrating. So I
How
guess
do you feel about losing Quinn? I know there's a
um,
lot of Quinn fans that were,
I am okay with losing Quinn. I like the fire. I think the Jazz need a new fire.
mhm.
I I I think Quinn Snyder just kind of his flame just kind of burnt out as the years gone on, and I mean he had to deal with a whole lot, especially with the Gobert Mitchell situation. I
Yeah.
think that took a huge toll on him, losing in the being the number one seed and losing in the second round. I think
Yeah.
takes a lot out on a coach because he put so much effort just to get beat by the Clippers.
Do you
And
want to talk about those trades a little bit?
oh yeah,
What were
we
your
could.
on those two trades? What are your feelings? I've listened to your stuff a
I
little bit, but
I love them. I love the
both.
trades. Both of them, yes, very much so. I think that we robbed the Minnesota Timberwolves,
Hmm. Oh
and
yeah,
as of right now, I think the Mitchell Jazz trade to the Cavs is a win-win for both teams. But something I read last night is there's already rumors going
yep.
around that Donovan Mitchell won't extend with the Cavaliers.
How long is he signed
So
there for?
I think he has 2 years left.
Man,
So
just today's NBA, man. It's crazy.
it
These
is.
players move around like it's just shuffling people
Yep.
around all the time.
It's no secret that Mitchell wants to go to the Knicks either. Like
Yep.
everyone knows about that. So if like with the Jazz, the Keontae George was from a pick from the Timberwolves.
Hmm.
I know we traded away Vanderbilt and Beasley, but they were kind of there to be what they ended up being, just another asset to trade.
Right.
But we also got Walker Kessler out of
Yes.
the Gobert trade, and he comes in and he puts up pretty much the same stats that Gobert put in the year before.
And less drama.
Now, now he wasn't he played less games, less minutes than Gobert did, but towards the end of the season, Kessler had like 2 30-point games. Gobert has only had one 30-point game in his whole like 10-year career. So there's just a lot of good feelings with Jazz fans, I believe, with these trades. A lot of them were very frustrated, but I wasn't frustrated. I saw it coming, and I'm okay with this rebuild because Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge, another Celtics name.
Yep.
I firmly believe in what they're doing because they're actually taking action. Whereas before, I feel like with the Millers, the Millers who own the Jazz, they were very much like, oh yeah, we're great, family friendly, like come to the arena and we'll try to get a team together. And then
They're a bit old school.
Quinn Snyder just never really, I don't know, I feel like he got outcoached all the time in the playoffs. I mean, it showed. He never made it past the second round. And so that's just my thoughts. I'm very excited about these trades. And we still have, I think, three picks from Cleveland and two pick swaps from them. And then we still have 3 picks from Minnesota.
Yeah, that was an absolute fleece. The Minnesota one was an absolute fleecing.
Oh,
let me run a scenario by you though.
Yeah.
And you probably thought about it, but maybe not. Say the Gobert trade happens just as is, but say the Donovan Mitchell one does not. So Donovan Mitchell was on the team last year. Now what does our team look like? I mean, what does last year's team look like, and what do we look like this year?
Man, that's a good question. Because we would have had Mitchell, Kessler, Vanderbilt, Conley. I think they could have been a.
Did we get Markkanen in the Cleveland trade?
Yeah, Markkanen was Cleveland, so we wouldn't have had Markkanen. Mitchell definitely would have tried to jump ship as soon as he could, though, too.
I think so.
If that didn't happen, so maybe we could have made the playoffs. But like, what I think the Cleveland trade did was solidify the Jazz's like future. I think more than anything.
Yeah,
because we could have kept Mitchell. We probably could have been playoff contenders, but I don't think that would have made us finals contenders like what Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith are trying to do right now. I don't know. Is that what you're thinking too?
I think so. I think that one was kind of a wash, but I think it fits our timeline better what we did, because I think Donovan would have been a little unhappy, but we probably could have kept him. We could have made the Gobert trade because I think him and Gobert had a little bit of a rough time, especially there at the end. And then we could have built around him and paid up for him, given him extension, all that stuff. And he would have been our premier flagship guy. I think it would have been good, but I don't know, man. It's hard to say because his timeline is a little bit different. Now we've gotten younger, and it seems like we're still a couple years away, probably. But we have the assets to make a move. So I thought they may pull something in the draft. Did you think they were going to do anything with all that draft capital?
I thought they would have traded the 16th pick and the 28th pick to try to get up. I didn't think they were moving from the 9th pick though.
Yeah.
But I was actually surprised they didn't make any moves during the draft. So
yeah,
the way the draft ended up, because I think Keontae George could potentially be a steal, because sometimes summer league play doesn't really translate well into NBA play. But going on the lines of all these trades, you probably are pretty familiar with Danny Ainge.
Yes, sir.
Was he like this when he was on the Celtics, like this aggressive as those two trades?
100%. He's known in Boston circles as just a gunslinger. That's what that guy is. He's a gunslinger. And he just – it's good and bad. It's bad because he doesn't have a ton of player loyalty, just like when we had Isaiah Thomas. I don't know if you knew Isaiah Thomas much at all.
I remember him.
He was great for us for a while, but the problem was he just was small. He started having back issues, and Danny Ainge saw this, got out from under him while he was at his peak. Celtic fans didn't love that, but we ended up getting Kyrie Irving back, which should have been a good trade. Again, didn't quite work out, but he's a gunslinger. He's the one who kind of instrumented the Nets trades, where we traded all of our old Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett stuff to the Nets and just got future picks, which ended up being all of our main guys right now. That's where we got Jason Tatum. That's where we got all those guys. So he's a gunslinger. And at no point did I feel like, some fan bases, I feel like, don't trust their front office. They always think they're just doing crazy things. And be fair, there's a lot of them that do.
Oh yeah.
With Danny Ainge at the helm, I never felt like if I didn't quite understand what they were doing, it's only because I was in the know. I've always felt like it was in Danny Ainge we trust, like I knew he was making the right moves, and he did time after time after time. And already he goes over the Jazz, and you can see him doing the same thing. And he's just making moves. He loves draft picks, loves them, but he uses them wisely, and he's making the same type moves. I think he's going to have the same sort of impact for you guys over there.
It's good. Was he part of the 2008 championship team? Do you know? He wasn't around
Playing
there?
or front office.
Like front office?
Yeah.
He was? So he was part of the...
Yeah.
Okay, so he does have championship.
He's been around. Yeah, he's been
good.
around for a little while. And of course, back in his playing days and all that stuff, he has some ties there. But
I don't think I was around because I was focusing on my mission during this time when Jason Tatum was drafted.
Yes.
I believe. Did he made a trade for that, didn't he? Like he traded backwards?
Yeah, this is the greatest story ever. Okay, so the number one pick going into that draft, 100% by every team. I mean, this was not as big, but Victor Wembanyama of that year was Markelle Fultz. Okay, everyone knew Markelle Fultz was going to be the number one pick. The Celtics had the number one pick from the 76ers. What ended up happening was Danny Ainge trades back to 3. And just a couple spots because he had a guy he liked better than Markelle Fultz. And it was already pretty clear the Lakers had the number 2. They were going to take Lonzo Ball. And so that was your top 3 that year. And sure enough, Sixers take Markelle Fultz, Lonzo Ball goes, and then this guy named Jason Tatum goes. I didn't know much about him at the time. I don't think too many people did. It was kind of a risky pick, honestly. But he got draft cap. He got big time draft capital back. He obviously got the best. I mean, because
did Jaylen Brown come from that trade too?
Year before. Jaylen Brown was
year before. Okay.
But so that draft class, the 2 best players in that class, as you probably know, was Donovan and Jason Tatum. They were the 2 best that came out of that. Where was Donovan drafted?
Donovan was 13, but the Nuggets drafted him, but then we traded for him.
Yep.
And so those two definitely were. Yeah. Lauri Markkanen was from that draft too. He was number 7.
Really? That high?
I think. Let me see. Well, he played a really good season for Arizona. University of Arizona took him to the tournament, and I think they won like 1 game, maybe. But Lauri Markkanen has had a rough upbringing in the NBA.
Yeah. And
a lot of it, though, has to do with Chicago and their coach that they had when he was there. Because I can't remember what his name was, Jim Boyles or something. I don't remember. But he just didn't know how to utilize Lauri Markkanen, so he kind of just stuck him as the number 3. Like, all you're going to do is shoot threes for us. And then he got traded to Cleveland. Cleveland kind of did the same thing. Like, oh, you're only good for like the 3-pointer game. You can't really do much. But then he, the Eurobasket Cup over in Europe was happening, and he played for Team Finland. And the coach, I'm pretty sure the coach or whatever, he's a star in Finland. Everyone loves him.
Yeah.
And as everyone should love Lauri Markkanen because he's great. And he got pretty much full reins of the team, and he ended up averaging like 29 points per game in the Euro Cup. He had a 43-point game, and then he got traded to Utah, and Will Hardy was like, oh, I don't think a lot of people really knew that he could do this. And so Will Hardy was like, hey, man, like our team doesn't really have much. You're going to take the reins. We're going to have you be our number 1 guy. And then it turned into an all-star starter, most improved player.
Yep.
And so it's Lauri Markkanen, I guess, is up there too with Jason Tatum now. And I mean, he hasn't had any playoff experience like Mitchell and Brown, but I think he's worked his way up to being top of that draft class now. I think
Yeah,
he was.
a
Let
lot of
me
those
make
guys are
sure.
washed out. What here so when you see something like that happen with a player, do you attribute that like, let me give you an example
Yeah.
from this year. Jalen Brunson would be my example this year. But when
Mm-hmm.
you see something like that happen where a player was just kind of mediocre in their spots and then go to a new spot and just absolutely excel and they're a number one top player type guy, do you think that's mostly all coaching? Do you think it's them doing different routine with how they work with stuff now that they're going to a new place? I don't think with marketing because he went to a couple teams already.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say. Why do you think he made that jump this year?
Yeah, I think it's kind of all the above. I believe he after with Cleveland he started a different like training routine. Um, Coaching I definitely think is a big part with people like that. I think some coaches may not see the great potential that maybe the front office saw when they drafted them,
Hmm.
but clearly the Jazz. I don't really even know if Danny Ainge saw what Larry Marketing could do
Yeah, I mean, part of it could be the role too, like you
when
said.
traded. You know,
Yeah,
froze a little bit, but so yeah, that's. I think it's kind of all the above,
yeah,
but same with like Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson kind of just emerged
yeah,
during the Jazz Dallas series. I think they saw what he could do, and then the Knicks, I guess, tampered a little bit and got him to
sure.
sign.
Why not?
But yeah, I love seeing players like that though in the NBA that kind of had a rocky start and then they blossom years later because usually the NBA is such a like we want if you're not good now, like what are you good for type thing, you
Right.
know?
Most 99% of players, if they're not good in the first couple years, they probably just aren't going to be good. But you get those couple, the most improved type
Yeah.
guys. I mean, guys from this year were like De'Aaron Fox, Gilchrist Alexander, Jalen Brunson. You know, these guys that pop off every year. You get a few of them, and they're great stories. They're kind of fun to follow, and it's awesome when it happens for your team too.
Also, sorry about that. I had to cut off the podcast because my internet connection went out. But I hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you all so much for watching. Please leave a review. And if you're watching on YouTube, like that button, subscribe because I'm going to be doing more. I'll probably try to come out with at least one episode like this per month. So, yeah, anyway, thank you all for watching.